Let's give them what they want.
Yo, is prepared for this for 365 days. I think about them that locker room.
True Smooch in the Dog Show. Another new episode is coming on tonight.
It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show.
You're listening to the one and only Dog Show. Your hosts, Troop Brinson and Smooch Moncrief.
Just two dudes talking Georgia football.
Welcome, dog fans, to the one and only Dog Show with Troop and Smooch on the mic tonight. And we're so glad to be here. Smooch, how are you doing tonight, brother?
Man, I'm great. It's good to be back on. You know, we've had a few weeks of life and sickness and things like that. Plus, it's just been kind of slow. But with the NFL Combine this weekend, it was just time to feed our ravenous fans. And by the way, True Brinson, best fans in the business follow the Dog Show. Nobody even close, you know. Our people are loyal. They support other shows. They speak into it. Could not be better. Wouldn't trade you guys for anyone else. Hoping to quadruple your numbers in the next year, but very grateful for the ones we got. Best there are, Troop Brinson.
Yes, love it, love it. And since we last talked, a lot of stuff has happened, just not in terms of maybe Georgia football. Georgia baseball team getting going, and spring rapidly approaching, and of course we said the
basketball breaking hearts and giving hope and breaking hearts and giving hope.
That's right. They played terrible, and then they find a way to beat Florida the other night, so that was fun. And our old buddy Blue Cane with a big shot. Mm-hmm. We took a little camping trip a couple of weeks ago, and we call it Bigfoot Camp because if Bigfoot's always welcome. If he's there, we'll find him. Yeah. And we had some weather issues, and we even lost a big 12 by 12 tent that we put over our cook station. It got blown away and destroyed.
It did.
But what we did have happen, Smooch, is that we had gotten a new thermal camera, thermal camera that can record, and it's got, just loads of features on it. And that last night we were there, we were looking on the mountain. It's like a 60-degree incline. So people aren't on that.
A human being couldn't climb it. You'd have to have rock climbing gear.
You couldn't. You couldn't climb if it was hard to climb it. The young bucks, my sons were there, and they had to climb to 45 degree on the other side. Right. You couldn't climb that 60, and it was 25 degrees. Right. Nobody's out there. We saw objects up there moving around together and it was like 3 or 4 objects, and I recorded it. And if you follow any of this, strange things happen. And my camera, after that recording, ceased to operate ever again.
Yeah, it just died.
It just would not work. I couldn't charge it, nothing, and I had to send it back. We couldn't even review the footage from that. So
it was weird, man. It was spooky. Voices in the woods and I got yelled at while I was peeing in the woods.
That was just me. I was like, hey.
Yeah. I come running back into camp with my pants down at my knees. It was a wild camping trip. But the weather was The weather was foreboding. The terrain was insurmountable, and yet there was something running up on that hill. So
yeah, and it was probably 30 miles, I guess, east of LJ, back in the woods, back on the mountainside. Anyway, and I'm all by myself this week as my wife and her youngest daughter, Grayson, is in Athens. They just left for Athens today. She is right now up there because she's the number 1 trumpet player in the state.
In the state of Georgia, people.
A 10th grader, yes, it's Grayson. And so she's at All-State this week, and they'll finish up Saturday with a performance. So that's where they are in Athens. And we're not in Athens, unfortunately, but
that's pretty awesome. But Grayson will be a fixture in Athens, hopefully, one day.
She is definitely planning to be a red coat.
You will see her, it's becoming kind of a tradition on our show, Troop, that we do kind of a musical original project to sort of open the season. So as we get closer to the beginning of this season, you will actually see Grayson featured on trumpet in this year's production, whatever it is we do. We're going to feature her because she has the goods, as they say. And so you do not be surprised to see her play in that first line of Glory, Glory before Munson starts one day. Do not be surprised.
I wouldn't be surprised. Anything
5-star prospect. Yeah,
that's exactly right. She got her first letter from a college because of her trumpet skills this past week.
That's
so
awesome.
Yep, she did. And what else? Me and Smoocher, we were talking off air, just trying to. Because we have a big Alaska trip planned for July.
Yeah.
And we're already, because if you go to Alaska, if you folks don't know this, and my wife's from Alaska, and so I've been 4 years, last 4 years, and this will be our 5th year. Smooch went 2 years ago. Him and his wife are going this year as well. And you have to start planning those trips like 6 months in advance. And so we've already got a big RV, which we rented up there and then ride down to Kenai Peninsula fishing and staying in lodges and all kind of fun things like that. And so we already got that taken care of. I've got my airfare. Smooch is working on his airfare. And we were put a good itinerary, a week-long itinerary together to just to do it like nobody does it. And we can't wait. We're just letting you folks in on what's going on.
Well, we've done a show. We did a show from it.
Household.
Yeah, a year before last, we did a show
from Ship
there.
Creek at Anchorage. We did one,
right?
Yeah.
And we'll be doing the same at this. It is amazing that those places still exist in the world, and you need some place to sort of reboot. And to me, it's like your head is an Etch-a-Sketch, and sometimes you have to take the little toy and shake it and make it blank again, and that's kind of what Alaska does. It's kind of a reboot, a reset. And not to mention, you come back with 100 pounds of salmon fillets when you're done. So,
yeah, our best day 2 years ago,
a Brock Bowers.
We caught a Brock Bowers, which means we caught 19 salmon in that one day.
Yeah,
which is good because those are big fish, and so
that was before lunch, really. I mean,
we did, and I did say we stayed at Ship Creek. Let me just enunciate that.
Yes,
that's where our podcast were from, Ship Creek in Anchorage. Yeah, our last day there.
Right. That's good stuff.
Yeah, we can't wait for that. And just giving you guys a heads up. It's just, I guess, a window into what we've been talking about, what's going on in our households and where we are. Because you folks like to know a little bit about that.
Right. And we do know that we will be at the spring game. We'll be at games throughout the season. We will definitely be at the Bama game. For those of you just want
shout out to Mercer Gary. Thanks for those tickets.
Yeah, Mercer is what a dear man. I am so fortunate to have him as a friend.
Yes, you are.
Absolutely. But you guys want to come hang out? We'll be there for at least those. We'll be there a few more times, I'm sure. But spring game, we're
do you know when the spring game date is? I could look that up real quick. I just don't know what
I'm sure I could pull it up. I don't.
Yeah, pull it up, and I'll pull it up while I'm talking a little bit about our show tonight. Smooch, we're going to have some combine talk as we got today, and you probably guys will hear this later on in the week. We did this we recorded on Thursday night. We did watch some of those big defensive linemen run, and TID and Warren Brinson and Stackhouse. I saw those guys doing some drills, so it's good to see the Georgia players out there. And we got 14 players invited to the combine this year.
Yeah, we did. April 12th, by the way, is the day of the spring game. I'll tell you what, we got those players invited, but the ones we didn't get invited, there's two that really stick in my craw before we jump into the other. Dan Jackson, who will be an NFL starter. Look at me in the eyes, Dogs fans. I'm going to tell you right now, Dan Jackson will be an NFL starter within the first 3 years of his career. No invite to the combine. As a matter of fact, I'll go out on a limb and say he will probably end up being drafted by the Philadelphia Eagles because that's just the way things go. But Dan Jackson left out. And Chaz Chambliss, I thought Chaz Chambliss warranted an invite as well, also left off. The other one was Urasek, and he's a bubble type of guy. I think all three will have careers in the NFL, so it's kind of interesting to me they were left off. But, yeah, it was fun seeing some of those guys again. I didn't realize – when you see Warren Brinson and Stackhouse at the combine, it's like the end of an era. They were there so long and played. I mean, Brinson played so many years. He played each year of his career at Georgia. He played significant playing time. It's just it strikes you when you see them out there without their Georgia gear on, getting ready to launch, so to speak.
And looked like TID had the most impressive day today. And at one point, he had the fastest. And 40 times, I guess, aren't the most important thing for a defensive lineman, but it shows you some athleticism. But he had a good day.
Yeah, the thing about TID that really showed when you put him next to those other D linemen today, now he came in at 6'5", 276 pounds, so more of an outside rusher. He was working out with the D tackles. May do it. There's been 280-pound D tackles in the NFL. It's happened. But the thing that jumped out is his fluidity and grace. They just call it athleticism, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. He was by far the most fluid and graceful tackle on the field. It was similar to his career at Georgia. There were times, TID came in as a 5-star, right? And there were times where he looked like he was going to be this dominant player for Georgia. And at times may have been, but there wasn't that sustained level of elite play that's so rare. And it's unfair to expect that of every single player. Don't get me wrong. But TID, you could see these flashes, and that's exactly what he did today at the Combine. He flashed. He would flash that athleticism. What really impressed me was the 1.69 10-yard split. That's get off for a guy that size. And then Troop Brinson, 36 inches in the vertical jump, 10 feet 4 inches in the broad jump. That's explosion. That is explosion.
36-inch vertical jump is 36 impressive for a man that size.
At 6'5", 276, a 36-inch vertical. So it may mean, like we've seen with certain Georgia players, and this is a magic of Kirby Smart, his best football is ahead of him, it certainly appears. That, college was great, we were glad to have him, but he's going to keep getting better. I'm hoping that's true for TID because he was definitely a DGD, but he never quite was that household name that you thought he would be when you saw his athletic profile, and then he flashed it today at the Combine. And I would say set himself up. Where would you say? I would say a team could talk into the early second round with him. Could be convinced.
Well, he does have the playing for Georgia has, if you just saw who won the Super Bowl this year, you get a little extra boost from playing for the Georgia Bulldogs this past few years. And you think some of those defensive players, especially, they're going to get a bump. And as far as what the expectations and maybe just giving them the benefit of the doubt, that's going to help those guys for sure. Yeah,
I think so. And I think you could see TID go second round all the way to fifth. But I would say somewhere in between is where you could bet. He looked good. He did score with their ranking system. I'm talking about NFL.com, by the way. He scored with their ranking system as the number one athleticism score of any D tackle today. Now, that's also a little misleading because he may end up being more of an end in the NFL because of his size. But the athletic traits are impossible to deny. Speaking of athletic traits, a few years ago, Troop, you and I were over the moon when Smael Mondon committed to Georgia with his crazy athleticism. We saw him come in and again flash and dealt with injuries, a nagging foot. And so
somebody who is built off that kind of athleticism and speed, that really hurt him.
It really did. That was his game, right? And so he did the broad jump today and almost hit 11 feet. He did do a 10 feet 10 inch broad today, and that's good. That shows teams a lot. But from what I'm hearing from the few former college guys that are now working NFL and are at the Combine, what I'm hearing is that the concern is medical evaluation on his foot. That is really what it all comes down to. He's projected to be a plus starter in the NFL for years. I think anyone that saw him play would agree with that. And not a lot from him. We also didn't get to see we didn't get to see Mykel or Jalon do anything.
Yeah, they're going to wait for their pro day at Athens.
Would have been great to see them blow up the Combine. I think both of them could have. But then, like we talked earlier, Warren Brinson ran a little slow. But he came in at 6'5", 315. That's really good for him. I was expecting a little closer to 330. So he was trimmed down a bit. A 1.76, anything in the 10-yard split under 1.8 is pretty good. A 1.76 10-yard split, a 5.9 in the 40. He's not paid to run sprints or anything. And then
5.9.
A 5.9, 5.09 in the 40.
09. I was like, dang, he almost barely broke 6.
No, 5.09. How about that? Yeah. And now there's been a few of those. But he's not one of them. He looked good. He looked savvy, and he looked a bit stiff. That's kind of his thing. He's going to be one of those guys. He's just a guy that can stop the run, can get a sack for you occasionally.
He's got that quick
depth.
Twitch. He's got a little twitch right there at the point of attack, though, where he can shed a defender and an offensive player, a blocker, and make that tackle. That's what we saw from him most of his career.
That's exactly what I was going to say. When you get up over 310 pounds, guys that can win one-on-one and get to the quarterback, even occasionally, those are plus players in the NFL. If you can just get there, there's a lot of guys that can take up space, but Brinson can get there, and I think that's gonna help him.
And we saw Stackhouse too. Stackhouse looked like just what he has been his whole Georgia career. He's just a huge man and very strong, and he might not show out in terms of some of the combine stuff and on the field drills. I'm sure other things he's going to do well on, but he plugs that gap in the middle and makes it where everybody else can do their job. So you won't see a whole lot of flash from big guys like him. There's only so many Jordan Davises out there who are going to run under a 4.8.
That's insane. Yeah. No, Stack is he was injured so much earlier in his career at Georgia. The fact that he is going to be an NFL player is great. And he is the type of player, if you have a plus defensive line right now and you need a depth piece, someone that can come in and you're not running when he's in the game over him, Stack is your guy. And that is what adds that value at that 6th round, that 7th round draft pick. Look, we can take this guy and put him in as a rotational player, and he will plug up the line. That's what he offers, because like you said, even though he doesn't look twitchy, the raw power is outstanding there. So, yeah.
And something I read today is that, and we kind of had a feeling about this, and I think it might have been Rusty Manziel from On 3 said that even with TID, that he almost came back to Georgia this year. It was a last minute. He was back and forth all the way to the end. And he was so close to coming back for Georgia, and he may be, should be the top defensive lineman selected for Georgia. Once you get Mykel Williams, and those guys are different freaks. But yeah. So it would be nice to have him back. But good luck to those guys. What else is on tap for the combine? Do you have a outline of what else or an idea?
Yeah.
What we can see coming up.
Right. So tomorrow is the DBs and the tight ends. DBs is usually a lot of fun because that's where you see some of the serious freaks run. You won't see Dan Jackson run because they didn't invite him. But anyway, which he would have run a 4.4, by the way. Wait till Georgia's pro day, and I'm going to be laughing and saying I told you so. But anyway, yeah, DBs and tight ends tomorrow. There's a couple of really good tight ends in this class. So anyway, that's tomorrow. Saturday morning is the one that everyone kind of gets up and watches. Saturday is running backs, quarterbacks, and wide receivers.
Nice.
And so that's the flashy day. That's the day with the, last year it was the two cats from Texas blowing up with A.D. Mitchell and Worthy.
Worthy.
A.D. Mitchell runs a 4.35. Everybody's like, oh, wow. And then Worthy comes up and almost breaks the clock. So in the low 4.2s. Do I think there's anyone that's going to hit that this year? No.
Arian Smith, maybe.
I think Arian Smith can break 4.3. I really do. I think he can come in and run a 4.28. I could see that. He could also come in and run a 4.3 or 4.4.
And we just don't really know, do we? Because we don't know what his time may be. He looks, he's usually, they say he's the fastest guy on the field. Well, let's see how that looks. If everything goes well Saturday morning, it'll be fun to watch.
The one thing he has is that he is naturally a sprinter. He's maybe more of a sprinter than a football player, so he may turn in a great 40 time. And NFL loves speed. Don't be surprised to see Arian Smith, I hate to use this word, overdrafted in this draft, because when he runs the route, and if he can catch balls, and he turns in a 40 time, that's teams. The Raiders will draft him.
But he looked absolutely great at the Senior Bowl.
Yeah.
We were like, but then as I saw that and I saw the practices and things, I was like, maybe he looks like this at Georgia practice too. Maybe that's why he continues to get so many reps. He's out there all the time because he looks great in practice. And it never really translated for one reason to another. The consistency on the field during the games didn't translate from practice. I'm sure he was practicing well where they used him. And so they saw a lot more of that. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't think that the Xavier Worthy, even though what a crazy time last year, I thought he was overdrafted as well. I'm like, okay, he's fast.
He was definitely overdrafted. And it showed.
He made catches and made plays this past year that I was surprised to see. I was like, dang.
Yeah, athletes are, and sometimes it's the change of scenery, sometimes getting out of their own head. I would love to see Arian, because I think Arian had the yips, and that can be just a mental thing. Maybe just getting out of Athens
just
and getting
throw him the ball in the first quarter. He's okay.
But yeah, tomorrow you can expect to see Malaki. I don't really know what exactly he's doing. But Malaki will run tomorrow, and then on Saturday that's where you get Etienne, Dominic, Lovett, Arian Smith, and then Sunday, Dylan Fairchild, Tate Ratledge, Xavier Truss, and Jared Wilson, who Jared Wilson is probably the biggest.
He's going to test out great.
He's going to test out great. He's the one, when you're talking about could a guy come here and really take himself from unknown to high draft pick, Jared Wilson can.
Yeah, trying to use him on special teams where he runs.
right. Make him a gunner, 310-pound gunner. Let's see what happens.
So that's the big news, really talking about the combine and get your juices flowing for football again. You know, there's still so much banter on social media about Georgia's offense, and because it does look like I hinted at a few weeks ago that Bobo's going to be that guy going into next season unless something crazy happens, and it's just bad timing for anything else for a change now.
Right.
And so we have lots of people, even big time Georgia fans who disagree. And some, if you on Twitter, you see some of these fans that you would know them by name. They get into it. Maybe we'll have some of them on here later the next week or so to kind of add some juice to the off season. But they disagree on
that. Might be fun. We got friends on both sides
on the offense and what their problems were last year, because there's blame to go around, and everybody wants some people want an easy answer. Other people want to tell you why it's never that simple. It's never that black and white, which I kind of fall on that.
Well, you do, but let me tell you something, Troop. There's a side. That's a middle position, what you just described. It's never that black and white. I'd say it's middle. There's as soon as we don't win a national championship, fire the coaching staff. That's one part of Georgia fans. But there is another part, and we've got some friends, even that do other shows, that fall with this, and that is whatever Kirby does is fine, and it is past any sort of scrutiny or doubt. And that, I would say, that's the other extreme. Anything that happens at Georgia is the right thing, or everything that happens at Georgia that's not a national championship is the wrong thing. To say it's not that easy and it's not that cut and dry, I would say would be a middle position. And so it might be fun to bring some of these opposing views on.
Yes, different factions, but still big Georgia fans. And
yes, we want the same thing.
That might be a good idea. That's a good thought. Let's put that together.
Yeah, I'm going to write that down.
But thinking about the quarterback position and the offensive coordinator, and then we start looking towards the future. Of course, this next year, we know that it looks like if health holds out, it's going to be a battle between Gunnar Stockton and Ryan Puglisi. But now I hear people who I respect say it's that Gunnar Stockton's way ahead of Puglisi right now. But
let me say, I think he is too. I know Coach Hayes thinks it's Puglisi. I think it's Gunnar's all day.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I don't make that spring game so much fun to watch. So different, and there's so much time between now and between through fall practice and all that to make up ground or to lose ground, or to be I'm not rooting for any one player. I just want it to be a good battle where the best is actually the player who is awarded that QB1 position. I want both players to be prepared. I just don't think that Stockton his resume is that far ahead of Puglisi, because he's got so much limited game action that it's just not. He didn't have a half a season. He didn't have a full season. He's got a game and a half.
I don't think he has an upper hand via resume. It's going to have to be who's better at the job.
That's right.
Yes, who's better at the job.
That's a great point, yeah.
Yeah, it's not the resume. He doesn't have the game. You can't look at him and say
he's just got to be the better QB for this next season.
That's it. Right. And that's not always the case on teams. A lot of times it's the guy returning that's the starter. Georgia doesn't have a returning starter. I think that's probably the best way to say it. Yeah. But I still think it's Gunner. I think he's got the time and he's got the team, and I think that factors in. But
using that to springboard into the next conversation,
future quarterbacks,
and so we did hear that Jared Curtis he's a Tennessee quarterback right now, and he previously committed to Georgia. Then he backed off of it to kind of assess his options, which was a good move, especially with all the money being thrown around out there. Mm-hmm. And now he's narrowed it from 6 to 2, and it's Georgia and Oregon. And the other quarterback is Landon Duckworth, another high 4-star. He may be a 5-star by the time he
will be. Yeah.
By the time, because he's like just out of the 5-star range right now. Mm-hmm. And he's out of the state of Alabama. And so both those guys are Georgia's, looks like their primary targets. Something did happen over the past week that may change some of that is that Oregon's, I guess, one of their commitments at quarterback did already decommit and then commit to USC. And so a lot of people looking at that say, well, that clears, maybe they facilitated that, or if they didn't, it's definitely going to put more of their eggs into Jared Curtis's basket, and you worry about all that money in Oregon with the Nike money. And so the conversation that I'm hearing is that you may find out this year, this recruiting cycle, if the Georgia Bulldogs are willing to pay for that player. If they think he's that guy, and he may not be that at a level they're just going to spin. Mm-hmm. But if they think he is, can they outbid Oregon? That'll be interesting to see.
It is, and it certainly looks like. Even, and I know no disrespect to Landon Duckworth, I think he's a fine prospect. Don't really know where he's going to end up in terms of his talent, but he certainly got it. But it seems that Georgia, that to me, the appearance of Landon Duckworth on the scene tells me they're in play for Jared Curtis, because that's how you play ball. You say, listen, we're not going to kill ourselves to get you in here. We want you in, but there's always a guy we'll take right behind you. I think those are bargaining chips. I really do. But when Georgia finds their guy, as you were saying, are they going to pull the trigger and go get him? Last year we were outbid by Missouri. To name others, when they wanted a guy and were willing to pay more than Georgia was, and they went out and got him. And watching what's the receiver out of Missouri? It's he'll be running
Burton.
Watching Burton. Run on Saturday.
Burton, excuse me, not Burton, but
Luther Burden. Thank you. Yeah,
not Jermaine.
Not Jermaine. Oh no, you can have him. But watching Luther Burden run around the field, that's just all that what if, because we Georgia wanted him so bad. And I don't know, at some point you want to see Georgia throw down and go get one of these guys rather than rely on tradition and we're the best developing school in college. All that's true, but can you take off your gloves and get in a nasty street fight and win it when it comes to recruiting? And that's kind of what people want to see.
Maybe it's just perception, but it feels like when these bidding wars come down to the end, Georgia doesn't win them. They get guys who have been long-time commitments or who make decisions. You don't hear much about it on social media. They just do their thing. And maybe there's maybe Georgia's already won the bidding war, and behind the scenes they continue to win that. It just doesn't. The perception is that they don't usually win these high-profile bidding wars, especially. I mean, we know at quarterback Georgia hasn't won those, and wide receiver either. So that's why it's wide receiver class is coming in is so special, because it's one of the best wide receiver classes Georgia potentially has ever had. So you want to see what happens with this quarterback situation. If Georgia's is, I think they're fully on board with this new phase of college football, wherever it leads us. Yeah, and they're willing to spend money. They're going to spend money. It just depends on how they want to allocate that money.
I saw something today. Here's the new era of college football in a nutshell. So they have these financial advisors come in to talk to players that are thinking of going into the NFL, and here's what you can expect. Here's how you manage your money. Now they're having to teach them about this in the college ranks because of NIL. And get this, Troop, if you are a senior, like you've had your 4th year of eligibility, so you've got one more year of eligibility, and you have a 3rd round NFL grade, okay, you can expect to make at least $1 million if you enter the transfer portal from your school. So let's say you're at Georgia. Let's say you're a 4th year senior, but you got a projected grade around the 3rd or 4th round in the NFL. You can make $1 million by entering the transfer portal for that 5th year and going somewhere else. And that is the kind of thing these players are having to weigh now. It's the kind of thing Georgia's having to weigh. When it's just a different animal altogether. I think you're going to see guys stay in school much longer. You're going to see a lot of 5th year players in the years to come that maybe take a pay cut to go to the NFL. Like Stetson Bennett, for instance, took a pay cut to go to the NFL. But with that new landscape, the one thing Kirby has always proven, even above Saban, is that he can adapt better than any coach in football. So how does he adapt? I think back to your Jared Curtis thing, that's going to show us the type of adaptation the Georgia leadership has taken.
Yeah, because there's not – I mean, they need a couple of quarterbacks, at least one really good quarterback in that class. And so it's going to be interesting to see how they approach that. And sometimes we as fans evaluate or think we have an evaluation on a player, or we read all the recruiting pundits and all that content and think we got to have this player. We got to have this player. And then maybe the coaching staff is like, well, we'd like to have him. But it's a smaller gap between him and this next guy than in our minds and maybe the fans' minds. So it's a big deal for us sometimes. Maybe they just don't evaluate the player the same way we think what his potential is. And so that doesn't say anything other than we just don't know. A lot of times we don't know. Just like we don't know what happens in practice with some of these players and we think these guys should be playing. We just don't always know, and we can just always we speculate basically what we do.
That's all we can do. And the thing about Jared Curtis is his mother from the beginning has wanted him at Georgia. Loves the Dogs, and they're right up the road from me in Nashville. Nashville Christian is where Jared plays, and but she has loved the Dogs. Wears dog stuff to the games. She's loved the Dogs from the beginning, and so. It'd be nice to see Georgia, as you said a second ago, close this out. Go get that guy and bring him in.
So you mentioned, Go ahead.
No, I said, like you say, though, it depends what their valuation truly is on him.
That's right.
Yeah.
You mentioned Stetson Bennett, and just off the cuff here. What have you heard about the Rams? You heard anything about Matthew Stafford and the Rams? Anything? I've heard he might be on the move.
He's been given permission to speak to teams. Looks like they're ready to move away, especially from his contract. And I think it really does look like there's a door open for Stetson. I mean, we'll see. There's doubters, and if Stetson Bennett ever walks out as the starter of an NFL game, people are going to lose their minds. But it has me. I am so cautiously excited about the idea of Stetson Bennett starting in the NFL.
I just remember him walking on in Sanford Stadium the first time, and I was like, okay, who's this 3rd or 4th string guy? Put him out there. Yeah. But the first thing I realized is that because he was just standing in the pocket and just delivering a little short passes and on time. And I was like, that looks really easy. Over the next couple of years, his game obviously really developed. But
you're talking about I know when you're talking about. You're talking about the game he came in to relieve Dwan Mathis. And because
Dwan made it look really difficult. Completing the pass was really tough for him.
Yeah.
And he looked like a deer in the headlights in the pocket. And Stetson was just like, okay, I've been doing this all my life.
Like he was throwing 7-on-7 or whatever. He just stood right there in the pocket. Yeah.
I don't know where this is headed, but for right now, he makes quarterback look a lot easier than this other guy does. So anyway, I got a feeling if he gets more time in the NFL, he'll make some of the same passes. And we're crossing our fingers that Stetson gets a chance to do what he's always done. And
I would be losing my mind. Oh my gosh. I don't know if I can handle it. That would be sensory overload. See Stetson Bennett slinging the ball around.
So, and we haven't had a whole lot of talking season stuff going. It's a weird offseason. There's not a whole lot of stuff going back and forth, and maybe it's because Georgia maybe didn't meet what their goal was this year, and it's been 2 years in a row. Last year was there was a different feeling. Georgia lost their last game this season, of course, against Notre Dame. That didn't feel great at all.
That didn't feel good. And you had the the national championship game was under scrutiny last year because of the cheating allegations with Michigan, and so you still had a lot of post talk and fighting going on after the season ended.
Well, and also with Alabama, the luster's kind of off of that. Right now, it may change, but the excitement's not. With DeBoer and his team at Alabama. People are just like, well, who knows? It may go in a bad direction. So there's not a whole lot coming from them. And Tennessee just found out that
they learned their lesson.
That Nico was not going to lead them. He was not going to just look like the best quarterback in college football off the get, and he didn't. He struggled to throw for 200 yards many games, and so that's not what Heisman Trophy quarterbacks with his ability do. And so they're not saying a whole lot right now. We're waiting to hear from Florida. Auburn feels good about themselves, and Florida thinks they're going to be better at Lagway if he stays healthy.
I would think Florida would be chirping like crazy because Lagway looks like he could be a monster.
They just been beat up for so long. It seems like Florida's been beat up for so long.
Yeah.
That got my dogs barking in the background.
There's a DGD in the background.
It does happen. But the funniest thing I did hear was from USC, and you mentioned it in the pre-show that they never seem to learn their lesson.
Never.
They're always the offseason is always the same for them. And I saw them posting this year or this week that they have right now rated the number 1 recruiting class. And they are super excited. They got probably 5 recruits or less than 10 for sure. And they are so excited about those recruits.
Number 1, huh?
Number 1 in February. They're just letting everybody know about it.
Do they give out national championships for that?
They should give out off-season national championships because they feel like they're in the top 2 or 3 every year.
They
actually have to play games.
There's a part of them that I really wish I had. I mean, if I thought we could go 500 or under 500 and I would be talking national championship the next season every year, there is something about that you have to admire. That level of delusion to be celebrating a ranking system that is wrong about 70% of the time when it comes to ranking players. I want that type of happiness and delusion in my life, Troop. I just can't get there because of my brain.
Well, we've also, I think they're at a different point in what they would see as ascension than we are. Georgia's been to the mountaintop recently. And when you're trying to get there, you take everything as just a huge victory. Every little benchmark is so huge.
That's good. Yeah.
You could be at the number 1 spot in February, and then Georgia's been sometimes like in a ranked 15th in July, and some of the Georgia fans are like, "What the heck's going on here? What's going on?" People are like, "Every year, dude, we're top 3. Just relax,
year, settle down."
The best players don't sign or don't commit in February. So USC, the best players don't commit early.
No,
why would they? They're going to hold out. They're going to weigh their options. They're going to look for right now the best deals. The best players aren't on your team right now, aren't signed up right now. And they may not. If they were, it's kind of a danger, a risk for somebody else coming in there and taking them anyway, because how the momentum goes with that stuff. And so, not the best time to be number 1 in recruiting rankings at all.
Probably not. Very, very few teams go wire to wire. So.
Nobody does. I don't really have much else, Smooch. It was good to get back on the air and chat a little bit and let our fans in on what's going on with us and what we've been up to. As we take a breather, a respite, and breathe in this off season a little bit.
Spectacular.
We're just begging. We're begging some of our rivals to do something silly or say something dumb. And USC was the latest, but
USC's
Alabama, they are laying in the weeds for sure.
And Bulldog Report sent us a few. He's good. He's good research for DFA. Bulldog Report.
Oh, yeah, Eric Taylor.
Eric over there. Yeah. So we'll hopefully be able to put together a good DFA for our next show. Maybe talk about the rest of the combine as well.
Well, we should. We'll have a lot more information to go with that.
Yeah.
I'm excited. That was good to see some of our guys on the field today, and we always root for those big times, but you don't see that a lot with those linemen unless you don't have many Trayvon Walkers or Jordan Davises running.
Yep. I'm ready to watch Malaki blow this thing up. If he chooses to run, I haven't seen any whether or not of what he's going to do. But
And the thing about Malaki is people say, well, he took a step back this year. He didn't have a great year. No. Georgia asked him to do some different things that he's probably not going to be asked to do in the NFL.
He was playing two positions at one time. I mean, essentially, yeah.
It's like in some high school teams. You're doing stuff for your high school team because you're trying to get W's. Your head coach is trying to get wins. They're trying to win, just like in college. And so you're putting players in positions because the talent is a lot more sparse on the high school to college and to the NFL. But they see what he brings to the table. So he's going to be a high draft pick. And Mykel Williams, Jalon Walker as well. We'll see where some of those other guys shake out. But those are some guys. And Georgia got some offensive linemen who highly rated. Even though Georgia didn't have a great year on the offensive line, they didn't kind of gel like we expected them to. A lot of those guys are going to go high in the draft, and they're Georgia players. And so you expect them to be kind of plug and play because Georgia is a one-stop shop for NFL talent.
Offensive line at Georgia can be drafted in the 7th round and start and make the Pro Bowl. It has happened. Yep, absolutely.
All right, that's all we got, folks. It's good to get back on the air.
Yes, sir.
And send us your suggestions on our social medias if you want. And we do appreciate all the subscribers. Check us out on YouTube. Give us a subscribe and a like and a 5-star review on our podcast. We would appreciate it.
Absolutely.
We thank you for everything you folks have done for Smooch Moncrief. This is Troop Brinson saying so long. We'll see you soon.
Everyone from Florida is stupid. Everyone from Florida is dumb.
This is the Dog Show with Troop and Smooch.
It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show. It's the Dog Show.